What's going on, people? How is everyone today? I hope everyone's all good. It's the review show, the first one of the season. I know it's just pre-season, but before we do a good review show today, before you do start watching this, please do hit the like button if you can. Subscribe to my DoreOnTour. And comment below, people. Did you watch the game yesterday? Nottingham Forest beat Nottingham 1-0. But good one out. Good to meet a few friends. Good to meet these two guys for a long, long time. I've not missed them at all. People in the comments, have you missed Dave and Des? If you have, just be honest. If you haven't, please do. So people get involved. And yeah, let's enjoy this show. Let's introduce the panel. Let's first of all, the man himself, Dave. How you doing, Dave?
Yeah, buzzing. Just come off. Thankfully, Alcaraz and Djokovic finished in time for this because I was totally wrapped up in that. And a nice follow-on from yesterday where we narrowly got the bragging rights in the city.
Woo!
So yeah, I'm good, mate. Good, mate.
People show some love to Dave Huang Berry, if you can. Next up, I love this guy. He's back again. He's a talk of Nottingham. Man himself, Do Daily Des. How you doing, Des?
I'm good. Like Dave was watching the tennis, had to rush the dog out and had to chuck my dinner down with me. So I'm a bit frustrated, but I'm here, ready for DoreOnTour, the most important part of today.
Oh, God. So people show some love to Des and Dave. Make sure everyone subscribe to Des as well. His Do Daily is in the title. So go on, just have a little click and subscribe to Do Daily. Right, so we're going to talk about this day's game. And as well, we're going to talk about the Forest topics as well. We know Forest have travelled to Spain as well. A few players have not gone. So that's another topic that we can talk about. A nice hour show, so people get involved as well. Before we do talk about it, I'm going to go through the comments as well. This is from Peter. Last year, I suggest keeper wanted Shea Adams. Not been mentioned this year, but if he's a fan, I imagine he's temporary. That's something we can talk about later on in the show. Paul, high all hopes we stick together last season. We'll be okay. I believe we do well in the corps. Yeah, really good. That's really good. That's it, Paul. Something that we can talk about throughout the show. My friend Mohammed, how you doing, Mohammed? Hi, Dora. I really enjoyed the game yesterday. Shame I didn't see you at the game. I'm going to see you going to play Sheffield United at home. Can't wait for the game. I was thinking of you and me. Yes, we've met Mohammed. Make sure you meet me. Make sure you don't meet Des or Dave because they'll chew your ear off. That's what it is. How you doing, Dylan? Hello, boys. Have a good show. Dylan, we're back to the show soon as. Gamer said hi. Mr. Door and Gang, how you doing, Gamer? Colin, how you doing, Colin? Villantor, I watched the Villa game, was shocking, but proper team wasn't back in the last, only 3 weeks. 3 was back. Listen, this is the Forest channel, Villa and TV. Paul, it's great to see you lads again. We're looking forward to the new season. I think everyone is. Everyone's looking forward to the new season. It was just good to be back to see the game. Here he is. Footprint's best signing of the Mighty Dangerous, Dave Asprey. Pat, Dave said he was shocking. Was that true? Was that true? No, it was not Pat. It was Max. Max, if you're watching, I'm calling you in football. I heard you are absolutely shocking. This didn't come from Dave. It didn't come from Dave. Good evening. How you doing? Good evening, Store Des and Dave. Hope you're all well. I hope you had such a good day yesterday. I heard, yes, you had a great day yesterday, didn't you, Eve? You met Joe, Ryan, and Mr. Steve Cooper.
Yeah.
Eve, do me a favour. Do join a Des and Dave together.
That'd be a rogues gallery, wouldn't it?
Right, so let's start by people. Get involved. We're going to talk about yesterday's game, and then we'll talk about other topics of the show as well. Let me start with you, Des. What was your thoughts on yesterday's game?
It was interesting, wasn't it? Because we know what the first game of pre-season is all about. There's no need to get carried away with performances, with results, and sort of things. Yes, it is Notts County. Yes, to some degree, we want to win. It is a Nottingham derby. But I said it on my own little preview before the game. The result is not everything. But we don't really want to lose to Notts County, do we? Because they crow about it enough when they beat us. It's their cup final. They come out. They were spirited. I thought Notts did pretty well, to be honest, considering they were playing against a Premier League side. They were obviously we've seen it in. Some of us might have seen it on the TV last season. good football inside for the level they play at. You know, really, really impressed with some of their guys. And the main down the right-hand side, I thought was good. Connor Rawlinson at the back, I thought did a pretty good job. But after that first half, it was pretty much sort of 50-50. Both sides trying to keep the ball. Nobody was really looking to penetrate, apart from when the main got the ball down that right-hand side. He's a little tricky winger. So I thought they wanted to sort of prove that they can play football. We wanted to stamp our authority. And it was a bit of it was a stalemate at half time, wasn't it? When the changes got made, it always happens. You never quite know what's going to happen next. Thankfully for us, Wang came on. We had 10 minutes wondering how we pronounce it, didn't we, at the match? But he came on, a little mix-up, he ran through. And if I can take any positive from the game, Dore, I'd probably take his performance. Whilst it is Notts County, you know, it is his first appearance for Forest, and I'm not getting carried away. He's shown a bit more spirit than most. You know, he played on that last defender. I like that. He was always looking to break through the middle and sort of get in on goal. And he got a bit frustrated when he didn't get the ball. And that's kind of what you want from your strikers, isn't it? So it was not definitely served up what we expected. We won the game. You know, we moved forward. I felt that perhaps listening to Steve Cooper afterwards, it might not have been too keen.
It was it was the same as last season, wasn't it? But it wasn't as brutal as last year, was it?
Yeah, probably not too keen. And at the end of the day, whilst we talk about no signings, you know, seeing Huang, Drager, Bowler in a Forest shirt, you know, it was like having new signings to some degree, wasn't it? But I'm sure some of those are going to sort of make the way out over the next couple of weeks, and we'll see a much settled lineup as the next 5 or 6 games progress. So yeah, it was much of what we expected. Nothing out of the ordinary. Forest looked to sort of be that dominant side. County looked to push on that little bit more. Their fans were behind them. Good atmosphere, and it was just one of those where it's a run out, 45 minutes, 2 different teams. We take it and we move on to the next game, don't we?
Dave, what was your thoughts on the game?
Well, I thought it was quite. First and foremost, I think it was quite a poignant occasion. You know, the 2 football clubs of this city coming together to, you know, remember and pay tribute to the poor souls who lost their lives in such awful circumstances. Forest fans and County fans. So I think it was great for the 2 football families of the city to come together. It was a really good occasion. It was a good crowd. So it was good to be there. As you said, it was a kind of like getting to know you again after a couple of months, which I couldn't decide if it was a short period of time or if it felt like a long period of time. So it was lovely to see familiar faces. I'm sure all the County fans were getting to know each other again like we were. And it was just smashing to be back at it again. From a football match point of view, I think it was just blow the cobwebs away, do a bit of running, pass the ball to each other again. I don't think there was any particularly outstanding player on either side. I thought, to be honest, until Wang did what Wang did, I thought it had 0-0 written all over it, to be honest. And you know, I mean, which in and of itself, you have to say, well done to George Shelby, because I thought George was our only player who played the whole match, and for a young goalkeeper, I thought he did pretty well. You know what I mean? So he put himself on the radar. I thought there were little cameos and vignettes. I thought Oral Mangala looked really good. You know, if we can have him, you know, free of injury and get last season under his belt, I think he'll be a key man. Same with Musa Niakate, and you know, the tried and tested who did work for us at the end of last season in particular. I think, you know, no problem with them. And of the others, I thought I've got to give Huang, obviously. He took his goal really well. He made it out of nothing, and given that he's been in Forest circles a little bit of a standing joke, because that South Korean guy that we bought went on loan to Olympiacos. He'll probably never play for Forest. He played, he did all right, and he scored his goal. So I thought he did. I thought Josh Bowler showed some nice touches as well. He looked quite sharp. But for me, if I was going to take anybody who's been promising from that, apart from the ones we know, and a lot of the kids played all right as well, you know, your Joe Gardners and your Josh Powells and that, great for them to get some game time alongside the big guns in our club, you know. But I thought Brandon Aguilera, I thought looked really, looked a promising lad. Whether he gets game time with us or he gets a loan, I think he showed the benefit to me of having played recently for his national side in the Gold Cup. He's been playing for Costa Rica. So, it was, Luke Williams will have said it, Steve will have said it, it wasn't a spectacular game of football. It was never going to be a spectacular game of football. It was just hey, here we are, get the rust out a bit and we move on. I'd like to think that by the time we get to Eindhoven and especially Frankfurt, we'll have some idea, some clues as to what we're likely to see, dinner time on August 12th at Arsenal. But no, it was a really good day. It was just good to see everybody. It was good to actually watch Forest again in live action. It was good to see County. I hope they do really well. I think they will be good in League Two. They got, Bostock. Good to see Bostock still playing some good football. McGoldrick, like Macaulay Langstaff. I think they'll go well in League Two. But no, it was a good day. Enjoyed it.
People comment. I'm about to ask Dave and Des about what player was you impressed with, what player was disappointed with. Please get in the comments below. We're at the end of last season. I know you slaughtered him, Dennis. Again, I don't want to. It's the first game. I don't want to go in on about each player, but I'm talking about Dennis. Players like Myton. I feel sorry for Myton. I really do. I think he's not. He didn't get any game time last season for Forest. He might not learn Sheffield Wednesday. Didn't get much game time. Do you think Myton? I think it's time for him to leave to get proper game time somewhere else.
Time for him to leave is a strong one, isn't it? The boy's obviously got talent. Just touching on those positives, like I touched on Wang, like Dave said, Aguilera. I thought Shelby was assured. He was really assured in goal. He didn't do anything wrong. His handling was good. His kicking was good. All the things that you'd expect. So there were a few positives from that. When you look at some of those in the first half, like you said, the two wingers, the guys, Dennis and Myton. I said to you guys during the game, I just feel Myton needs to go out to a club where he's going to play a lot of football. And I said it during the game, a club like Notts County might not be the worst place for him. Somebody where he's probably a little bit too good. I referred to the situation we had with Tyler Walker and George Grant when they went to Mansfield and they were the star players. I'd kind of like to see him, and I included Dale Taylor, as you know, in that kind of brackets. A club like Notts County on an upward curve for players that have obviously got ability, but they perhaps need that little bit of confidence, perhaps setting goals or hitting the back of the net themselves. I think that would be a great place for them to go in a good footballing side. A team that plays football in the lower leagues, it's a bit of a commodity, isn't it? So I kind of thought, and you, rightly so, Dor, you suggested to me, I'm not disagreeing, it's perhaps too low for those players. And it is to some degree, but it was the fact that they were footballing side, who get the ball down, get it wide, get the ball in, that kind of thing. And I think they'd be really useful at that level to get some confidence going. It does look like at the minute, Myton might be, for whatever reason, might be in the last chance saloon to some degree. It looks like it might not quite be happening. The Sheffield Wednesday moved it where what he's got to do himself is get his head down. I'm not saying he isn't, but he's got to get his head down. He's got to apply himself. And he's got to give Steve Cooper a decision, hasn't he? Whether that's going away on loan or fighting for a place on the bench. And it just don't seem to be happening. There's a lot of talk about what happened at Sheffield Wednesday, but that's in the past, isn't it? He's got to move on. All the cream of the crop will rise at the end of the day, and if he's good enough, he'll make it. So he's got to go somewhere, or he's got to fight for his first team place and give it a real go. You touched on Dennis there. Yes. He's not travelled, is it? And he's not travelled to Spain either. Picked out Dennis earlier in the season, last season, and was a little bit frustrated with him. It's just the same, isn't it? If anyone was a threat yesterday, whilst he didn't play great, I always felt Dennis was the biggest threat in the first half. He was getting at their winger. He was getting at their fullback, getting the ball down, and when he knocked it past them. but it's that indecisiveness when he's got time on the ball, and it's really, really frustrating. So again, I think he needs, obviously he's linked with Leeds.
Yeah, release that. Yeah,
a championship move. You know, for a player that costs 20 million, obviously that sounds a bit bizarre, but I think a championship move is probably the best thing for him, perhaps to get a starring role and perhaps 5, 10, 15 goals a season and really become the force he was. Because every Forest fan we speak to, you know, some overhype him, but every Forest fan we speak to believes there's actually a player in there. Now, I'm sure Steve Cooper that wanted to sign him believe there's a player in there, but we've just not seen it. And even against Nottscounty, even in League Cup games or league games where we bring him on at the end of the match, it's just not important just to maybe move these guys on, whether it's temporarily or a permanent thing, and start working with we know what can improve us going forward.
People, I've done a poll on people. Would you want to keep? I know he's been linked with Leeds, but would you want to keep Dennis? 14 votes said, 21 says yes, and 79 says no. Well, people in the comments, what do you think? Keep Dennis, yes or no? Dave, what do you think? Like, we can talk. I don't want to have a agenda on Dennis or my turn, but there's a good question. And this is for you, Des, as well. And this is from Christian. Who are Dave and Des hoping to step up the key players for this season? Let me ask you first, Dave. What players need to improve?
Well, apart from the ones that we all know about and who stepped up last season, at the moment, I'm struggling to think of a name. I mean, you know, on the subject of Emmanuel Dennis, Des hit the nail squarely on its head when he said, we all know there's something in there, but we've all seen that getting it out is really difficult. I think Emmanuel Dennis seems to live in this sort of alternative parallel dimension where you get lots of encouragement from him and then you get lots of discouragement from him. You get moments of confidence from him and then you get moments of abject lack of confidence from him. And I almost feel that he needs it to be instinctive rather than based on any rational thought for him to do it. If he just did it off the cuff, it would probably happen. There have been games when he's come on and you kind of think, blimey, this guy looks really sharp and he's going to do it. But then you know for a fact, 5 minutes along the line, he's going to have a lot of the Reds up in arms because he's given the ball away cheaply and all this kind of stuff. So I'm as in a limbo about Emmanuel Dennis as Emmanuel Dennis is in a limbo about his own sort of state within our club. Alex Martin, I feel incredibly sorry for Alex Martin. I think he's a really good lad. I think he tries hard every time. But I just have this sense that the evolution that Forest have gone on from when Steve arrived at the club has happened so quickly that a lot of lads who at one time seemed like they were going to be really good, you know, they were good prospects and had, you know, a clear path to the first team. I feel like the fact that Forest have had to, you know, have gone on this sprint through the championship from a standing start. They've gone through a sprint through the championship and then they went through this, and it was traumatic at times, this traumatic season to get to the point of survival. And it's almost like Forest have had to motor so far away. It's almost like those lads who felt that they had a chance of getting in the first team and they could see a distance from where they were to that end point. That distance has increased. And it's almost like Forest have evolved at a rate so that a lot of the lads who went out on loan, and I'm thinking like Finn Back, Tyrese Forner, Riley Harbottle, these are all really good lads. They're all proper Forest boys, love the club, they come through it. But you just kind of, I personally at the moment can't see where they're going to get into the side. I mean, we were talking about Aguilera now. He was signed, I don't know, 12 months, 18 months ago, whatever it was. And he looked okay, but I couldn't hand on heart look at Brandon Aguilera and say, right, he's a key man for Arsenal. And I just looked at, when I looked at Oral Mangala and I thought, yeah. I looked at Ryan Yates and I thought, yeah. Joe Worrell, yeah. Moose, yeah. Nico, yeah. You know, there's almost this kind of disconnect between what we've come to accept in our first team and what is pushing up underneath. And this is where whoever's replacing Gary Brazil has got to be, you know, really creative to get these lads further along. I mean, you'd like to think that the fact that the club's progressed so quickly and so far will drag these lads along. I mean, I mean, I actually think Dale Taylor. To me, Dale Taylor is the one of all of them that gives me the most hope that he will crack it. I mean, he was excellent on his loan with Burton last year, and I think, and he's played international football already at a young age.
Dave, do you think he should get a crack at the Forest, or do you think he needs another loan spell?
I think he needs a championship loan spell. He had a League One loan spell last year, and I think Dale needs to. I could see Dale. Why, Dale would be. I think Dale would be all right if he went to Ipswich or Plymouth or somebody like that. Maybe go to Rotherham, and he'll have Cafu to look after him. Do you know what I mean? And I think these lads. I look at Riley Harbottle, and I could see him going back to Mansfield. Alex Mighton needs confidence. There's ability there, but he just looks a little bit. He looks a bit overawed when he puts a red shirt on. Now we need him to relax. He's done it before in big matches. You've seen him before. He scored against Swansea at the end of the promotion season. So we know there's something there. But I just think he needs to go somewhere where he's going to have some kind of empathic coach. He's going to put his arm around him and get the best of him. It clearly didn't happen at Sheffield Wednesday. So there are a lot of young lads there with a lot of ability. Josh Powell did all right at left back for a little lad, and he was up against like Des says, he was up against Nemain, and that was Nemain played well, but Josh battled away. He got done a couple of times, but he stuck at it. Joe Gardner looked all right. Aaron Donnelly is a good lad. He's likely to probably go back to Port Vale. So I think there are some really good clubs that Forest could get in touch with and say, look, give these lads, the next step on their education, like Lincoln, Mansfield, the Vale, Burton Albion, these kind of clubs. So I just think they've some have been left behind a little bit, almost by being out of the building on loan. So it's not anybody's fault. It's just a natural progression of life in a football club over 18 months. But if you tell me any of the supporting cast are going to kind of like, no, I think it's nobody knocked my eye out yesterday. No, I don't think nobody knocked Desi's eye out or your eye out, because it was just a kickabout, essentially. If you get young lads getting a chance, say, against Leeds, Eindhoven and Frankfurt, and they have good games, and you say, oh, hang on a minute. Because they're all sat there with a chat. I mean, there are some coming, like Lewis O'Brien's going to come back. Now he'll want
that's another player we're going to talk about that show.
So the thing is, at the moment, I think probably the safest thing to say, lads, is that yesterday didn't really provide any answers to the questions that are ongoing at the moment. We probably won't get any answers to those questions for, probably not in Spain, and probably not, in the behind closed doors matches. But by the time Leeds, Eindhoven, and Frankfurt come round, you'd like to think that we'll be getting some sort of idea as to what will occur, or what we'll be going to Arsenal with on that first day.
People, the 70 people in, if you could do a massive favour for me, please do hit the like button and subscribe to the DoreOnTour. I can't believe people, if there's any topics that you want to tell me, Dave or Des, please do. Des, I mentioned this guy, I know you're not a fan of him, Remo Thriller. Like I said, 45 minutes, he played 45 minutes yesterday. Des, what do you want from him from next season if he does stay? Because I know I liked him, you didn't. We had a little disagreement on him, but people in the comments as well, get involved. He frustrated me a lot. I liked him at the start, but then he just went downhill for a little bit for me. But people in the comments, what do you think of him? But Des, what do you want from him?
I just want a confident Remo for you. Again, when we talk about Dennis and a player being in there, this guy's obviously oozes quality to some degree, but we've not really seen it in a Forest shirt. I want the guy to grab hold of the game, get it by the scruff of the neck, dominate that midfield, ping the ball around. And we never saw it enough. When we were struggling, he seemed to go missing a little bit in games. There was games where he got frustrated. Mentioned it before on here since the end of the season. The Southampton away game where he got booked early on. That was a week after, or a couple of weeks after. It was actually after the international break, but it was a few games in reality after the Brentford game where he gave the ball away, and they went through and scored on the stroke of half time. So he just seemed to be a player that really, really lacked confidence in the second half of the season. Lots of people realise that he's a great technical footballer, but it's okay being a great technical footballer. What we want is somebody who's really going to impact games. Danilo towards the end of the season really impacted games. if I'm really honest, there's still question marks in my mind, and not because of his goal scoring record, because of his ability. Taiwo, it wasn't necessarily his ability that we're all raving about. It was his application, and his ability to impact the game, whatever sort of skills they've got. And Foyer showed a lot of technical stuff, good sort of purist kind of football ability, but he didn't show consistency. And when it really mattered, he didn't step up in games. There was one game I can pick out, and I can remember thinking, what a great performance. That was Liverpool at home. He had a cracking game. Him and Ryan Yates in there, boss their midfield. And other than that, whilst you keep reminding me that I wasn't a fan, it
wasn't. You slaughtered him.
Yeah, well, those kind of words don't help because it's not personal. It's not anything
personal. It's just not fun.
I don't want to go chasing players, but as we said, I don't want to pretend I'm a know-it-all or anything. But him and Dennis early on in the season kind of called it that they're not impacting what we need to do. I wanted Foyer to be that guy who went and collected the ball off Joe Worrell and McKenna in the first part of the season and Felipe in the second. Collect that ball and get it forward quickly to Morgan Gibbs-White, who could then get it forward even quicker. But there was no real link up in there. And I still think, whilst you've asked me the question, what do I want from Foyer? I want consistency. I want him to step up to the plate. I want him to show us the player he is. I think that's Forest's weakest position. I think that's where we need to strengthen. Of course, the link with a guy from PSV for 30 million quid, and perhaps one or two other names being bandied about, perhaps one or two in that position. They tried. John Joe Shelby didn't work out, as we all know, not got many supporters. And I think over the season, there was always looking for that. When Danilo came in at Bournemouth, even before Danilo was ready, before Danilo started showing his worth, Cooper put him in Foyer's role and moved Foyer. It says a lot, to be honest. It says a lot that that's somewhere we were looking to improve. We can all say he wanted to do this, he wanted to do that because we've got favourite players. The reality is if Foyer were doing his job, Danilo wouldn't have gone straight into the team. He went in there out of necessity and it didn't quite work for a few weeks until they worked with him, find him a bit of a position as well, and then once Foyer come out the team, for me, it was no coincidence that we looked a lot more solid. Mangala's form improved. I still think there's vast improvement to come from him. I'm not saying he's a finished article. I know a lot of people are raving about him. But again, these were the players that we was in a relegation battle with. So something's got to improve. We've got to improve on that team. If we kept with the same team and the same inconsistencies and made the same errors that these players did over the season, we'll be in the same relegation battle. It doesn't matter if Luton or Sheffield United or Burnley have just come up. It doesn't work like that. Last season, all three teams stayed up, which is a bit of a rarity. So if that happened again, then we're fighting other teams. So I just think we need to really, really look at that midfield, strengthen it. 1, 2, maybe 3 players in there, because I'm not sure. Apart from, I'm not sure other than Danilo, who I sort of put in there on a permanent basis as the long-term answer to take us up the league. So from Foyer, getting back to the point, if he is going to do anything, if he is going to stay, I'd like to see a lot from him. What really, really sort of, it made me chuckle to some degree yesterday. Notts County's first chance of the game came from a mix-up between Foyer and Williams.
Yeah.
I'm there to the box, and I just thought, do you know what I mean? These are the games as a world-class footballer, as we told, that he should be really taken by the scruff of the neck and penning them in. But again, it was a friendly. I can't be too hard in that sense. But just that consistency. And Dore, right? You say I slaughtered these guys. I don't think I've slaughtered them. I've picked out.
You slaughtered. Dave. Well, people in the comments, if you go back, what game was it? I don't know what game was it. You slaughtered Riemann Furlong.
I think after the Brentford game, I was a bit vocal on Twitter, and I ended up getting myself into a debate, as you well know. But I want Remo Foyer to be the player we thought Remo Foyer was. If he comes and does it next season, because this is what happens at football clubs, isn't it? Players come in, it don't quite work out for one reason. You think they're out the door, and then all of a sudden, they will beat us again. It just happens. You know, sometimes a player just comes to a club, it don't quite work out, and then it all sort of works itself out, whether it's new players, different formations. So if he went and did that, you know, it'd be like a new signing in itself. Because whatever anyone says, whether they're a fan or not, we didn't get enough from Remo Foyer last season.
Where is it? Dave. You're mute, Dave. You're mute.
Yeah, it keeps muting me or not muting. I think this laptop has got a thing about me. I don't know. It's because I live on a busy main road, right? And there's like lorries and what have you going up and down. So I apologise.
It's the first place on plane to Spain.
Yeah, the BBC's Promenade concert season started on Friday night, and I watched Grieg's piano concerto, and there was an amazing Finnish lady who came on, and she was doing, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, what a wonderful conductor she is. And I thought to myself, yeah, I know another conductor, but he hasn't done any conducting yet. And I kind of look at him and I see he's the embodiment to me of the country he comes from. Switzerland has been historically neutral for centuries, and Remo Freuler was completely neutral to me for most of last season, apart from the Liverpool game, where I thought he got helped by the physicality of Ryan Yates and Cheku Kouyaté. And I keep looking at Remo Freuler, I keep thinking to myself, conductor, when are you going to grab the baton and actually, you know, energize the orchestra? There's nothing coming from Remo. And I looked yesterday, you know, to bear out Desi's point, you know, County are in great state of mind. They've just been promoted in exciting circumstances. The buzz around Notts-county must be great. Those lads must have loved getting out on the field, taking on their, you know, supposedly bigger named rival from across the river. But in the reality of it, a guy of Remo Freuler's undoubted ability, so we're told, he should be dominating that game. Yeah. He should be running that game. And I go back to the end of the season.
Spurs, Dave, your Spurs. The Spurs game. Yeah. Time it was so frustrating.
Yeah, and those games at the end of the season, I started off and I would go to every game and I was like, go on, Remo, getting right behind him. And there were times like I kind of come away from games, mate, when are you actually going to deliver on the promise that is obviously there? When are you going to deliver on what you did at Atalanta? And I think that one of the key decisions, probably the thing that kept us up, was the arrival of that midfield three of Ryan Yates, Oral Mangala, and Danilo. It had I don't know what it was, and I've said on a few shows here and there that you just had a sense that, oh, hang on, that feels right. Why does it feel right, Dave? I don't know. It just does. It's a chemical thing, whether it's in my gut, whether it's in my mind. It just looked right, and it looked organically fit for purpose when we needed it the most, because we were right under the cosh. And I just want Remo Freuler to kind of show me some personality and do something that, you know, I would almost like Remo Freuler to do what Djokovic did in the final day and smash his racket against the net. Just do something that says, hey, I'm Remo Freuler, and I'm gonna do something that makes you all take notice, because the lad hasn't done it yet. You know, people are now talking about there's these, you know, social media, most of which is nonsense, to be honest, but it's on social media saying, well, his wife's holding the baby, towards him, you know, and all this kind of stuff. So I feel, of all, you know, there are some frustrating guys in our squad. They're probably lovely lads who are trying hard and it's not working for them for whatever reason, and I'm unbelievably forgiving. But if anybody's going to be the most frustrating guy in our squad, to me, it's Remo Freuler, because we saw what he did in Qatar for Switzerland. You kind of thought, is that the same guy? And there's all this talk about him playing further forward. He's not going to play further forward because that's taken with other people. Danilo's now your breaker from midfield. He doesn't want to get in the way of Morgan. So you want Remo, like Des said, you want Remo to go back to Felipe and Joe and Moose and Willie or Scott, whoever is at the back, the big lads, and say, right, I'll have the ball and I'm going to like pull all the strings. In fact, the only player who kind of did that for us last season was John Joe Shelby, funnily enough, at Fulham, when for about half an hour he looked like we got ourselves a good player before he kind of dropped off a cliff. So with Remo Freuler, I think Remo Freuler is he and Dennis are the two enigmas in our club at the moment. Now, if Steve can somehow manage to get, and they can help him by engaging in the job themselves, get that good player that we know is inside. It's like a Russian doll. There's a good player buried away. If Emmanuel Dennis and Remo Freuler can sort of rise to the levels that we as fans and sort of casual observers of what they've done at their previous clubs, then we're going to be helped. We're going to be a better side for it. Do you know what I mean? Because like Des says, we don't. Personally, I just want us to be 17th again, and then anything over and above that is a bonus. But having finished 16th last year, you'd like us to take that next little incremental step. I'm not saying we're going to be top half, or we're not. But I'm kind of thinking, well, 15th, 14th, 13th, 12th, something like that. And we need Remo Freuler to start being the guy he was at Atalanta. I mean, Darren. I've heard Darren Fletcher talking about. Darren Fletcher commentates and watches on a lot of Champions League games, and he's saying the guy was terrific for Atalanta. Well, he hasn't been terrific at Forest, and not every player comes from not every player comes from one club and immediately slots into another club and he's great. But you would like him. So I just don't know. I would rather have Philip Zinkernagel than I would Remo Freuler at times. And Philip could drive you bonkers because he'd be, at least with Philip, you were getting games where you kind of, wow, how good was he? Yeah. And then obviously he'd be anonymous to the next one. But if anything, I'd like Remo Freuler to be inconsistent because he's just been consistently bland to me. And that's a bit of a cruel thing to say. And he's probably a fan. He seems a really good guy, and he seems a really intelligent guy, but he just seems kind of, I don't know. He just.
I think you know what. I think when he playing, you mentioned Dave. I don't know much about him too much. With him playing in Italian football, like Italian football for me is really slow. So I think the pace from Italian football to the Premier League football is just made him the way he is. And like I said, I was a fan of him, but I'll start for we've got a good sign player, but then at the back of the end of the season, I didn't see him.
He's in danger, mate, of becoming another João Carvalho who just couldn't deal with the hurly-burly. And it's an awful phrase, but it does describe the kind of slightly chaotic nature, physically and mentally, of the games of football that we play in this country. And, maybe he's just not cut out for it. So I don't know, mate. I really hope, if he gets his game time, he shoves it down my throat. Nothing would make me happy, mate.
Me too. People, if you can do a massive favour, please do hit the like button, subscribe if you are new to my channel. There's players leaving. Sam Sturridge, he's going for 5.5 to Nashville. I personally think people in the comments what do you think? I think it's a great deal. 5.5? I think it is. Des, what do you think about that move?
Yeah, on the face of it, it appears to be a fantastic deal. A player we signed for £2 million, contributed massively to promotion. Of course, he found his chances in the Premier League a little bit tougher to come by. I thought he was a great finisher when he got chances on the pitch. It was like he was full of endeavour and full of commitment. An honest footballer. Perhaps something we put a question mark over aforementioned players. Just really sort of honest in the fact that he put it all in. Was his skill level quite up to it in the Premier League? Maybe at another club, but last season, maybe not. It just didn't work out for him in the Premier League, did it? And there was lots of people calling for him to play. Personally, I'd have liked to have seen him play more football at times because I thought he was the best option at times. As the season transpired and as we got to the end of it, and I felt Steve had hit on a great formula, after that Liverpool game especially, and the team built a bit of confidence. I felt that there probably wasn't a place for him. But early on in the season, I felt he deserved a few more chances. But that's just what the manager, what the club as a whole think of him. So 5.5 million, signing him for 2, massive impact he had. He got us into the FA Cup quarter-final as well. We paid some money there. It seems a good move. The only thing for me is it seems a stranger move for the player. Whilst it probably does make sense to him, but it's probably financially worthwhile. I'd like to see him around a championship club, a top championship team. just to see if he can really sort of do it, can push on. I think there's a place for him in English football. Such a sort of good lad. Good family. We've spoke to his dad in the past, of course, and I really like what they're all about. And it's just a shame that perhaps for a short or prolonged period that it won't be about, and we can't sort of mark what he did it for Forest for what he might do for another team in the Championship or another English club. So a little bit sad to see him go, but football's brutal, isn't it? We have to move on. Some of the players that we're linked with, which I'm sure we'll come to, are probably more seasoned, more experienced in the Premier League, more experienced in the top leagues, and that's got to be where Forest are looking at now, isn't it? We signed those players who was a bit raw, your Mangalas, your Tyros, Nakate to some degree, done well in top leagues abroad, but not the top leagues. They've done okay. Now I think we've got to go to that next level and sign players that are really quite established within their teams over 2 or 3 seasons, perhaps Premier League players like Iniacho and names like that. And I think they will then take us to the place in the table where it's not quite so precarious. Like Dave said, we'd all take 17th with a bit of a better start, for example. We'd like to get some points on the ball. We know it's tough, but as long as we're always fighting in it and we stay up, it'll be a better season, because there were points last season where we was out of it. We was dead, buried, gone, and we had to scramble our way back in it. And somehow we did. We look safe, then we're back in it, and we don't look like we're getting out of it, and then we get out of it. So I think with those players, with those additions, with experience from those raw players I mentioned, Tyro, Niakate, Mangala, they'll probably stick around. They'll get better for it. They'll get better for the experience. They'll get better for playing for Forest, the confidence they picked up from the end of last season. And put a few real quality players around them. We touched on Foyer, you replace him maybe. When Tyro's not in the team, you might have Iniacho as a different option or as a selection headache. And I think you've got a lot more to work from. So, I think Sam, he's one of those players again. I always remember when we was not very good, Greg Halford, I remember him.
Yeah, Greg Halford, yes.
But he was never the best footballer in the world, but whatever position he played in, you said that guy never let us down. And he supposedly he had a bit of an attitude. He had this going on. But he came and played for us, and he's one of those players who never let us down on the football pitch. That's what I firmly believe. So he goes away with good wishes, and thankfully the club have got a good deal. A profit on a player who basically not played for a season. Scored 1 Premier League goal. So you can't really fault that if the club are looking in a different direction, can you?
44 minutes gone, people. If you've got any topics to talk about, please do. David, another player that's coming back today. I don't know if he's going to spin or not. Lewis O'Brien. Last season, he started good.
Yeah, he did.
The Leicester game, I think that was a turning point of his career. Went to America, did okay for them.
Yeah.
Does he get a second chance at Forest? People in the comments, what do you think about Lewis O'Brien? Does he get a second chance at Forest? I know before we come on live, I saw a Leeds fan talking about him. He's been linked with Leeds. Does he get a second chance, Dave?
Given that there are 6 friendlies, if were I Steve Cooper, let's get one thing straight, I'm not anything like the man Steve Cooper. He's way above me. But I would be thinking, right, he did well out in America. He was extremely unlucky to be mucked about in the transfer window. It wasn't anything that Forest did. It was Blackburn with Tardy with filling in their documentation. He got left in no man's land, which is no place for a young lad who wants to play playing football, and who actually hadn't been that. I thought he had a good start of the season, then he just faded a little. But then he was like all of us, management, coaches, players, administrators, chairmen, owners, fans. We were all on a learning curve in a difficult league. So Lewis is no different from the rest of us. I would like to see him get some some game time in these friendlies, so that Steve Cooper can and Andy Reid and Stephen Reid, Alan Tate, whoever, can have a real good look at him and then make a more informed decision. It's too early to say about Lewis, based on what he did. I always kind of thought I would have kept him. I like his attitude. He gives everything. I think he would have got better had the season gone on. The more he got used to that league, he went to America, and from what I saw, and I only saw snippets, so I'm not super informed about what he did. I think he's worth the crack. I mean, the thing was yesterday, George Shelby played the whole game, but like we had 10 on in the first half and a different 10 on in the second half, so everybody's getting a chance. Wang was given a chance and kind of took it. Josh Bowler got given a chance, and I thought he did all right. Brandon Aguilera was given a chance and did all right. Some others were given a chance and maybe didn't cover themselves in glory. So Lewis O'Brien comes back in, and he's in this kind of amorphous blob of Forest players who are all in with a chance. And that goes from Morgan Gibbs-White, who's kind of like the most high-profile name maybe, or Brennan or Taiwo or Felipe, whoever, right down to those young lads. At the moment, it's all one big group of human beings. And what the team have to do, what the coaching team have to do, is sift through and decide, each player on their merits. And Lewis O'Brien, to me, kind of comes into that. Just going back to the Sam Surridge thing, I think the way I look at it, it's a signpost to a better financial future for Forest that we are now. I've looked enviously at the ability of, in particular, Brighton and Hove Albion and Brentford to bring players in, nurture them, make them better, and then sell them on for profit. And that, for a club of our stature, because we're not able to compete with the colossal, multinationals, if you like, at the top of the division, that has got to be a business model for us going forward. So to bring in a guy like Sam, who I'm really sad, if he is going, I'm really sad. I think Sam's a cracking good lad. I think he's a great team man. He's extremely popular from what I can gather in and around the club and with all the lads. He must have been frustrated at not getting game time, but he's got his head down, and he's been a good team guy. I hope he has a fantastic. He'll score goals in America. He's a natural finisher, Sam. But I look back at when he came from Stoke City, right? All we had to go on was his relationship with Steve Cooper from his time on loan at Swansea. Because at Stoke City, he had a good start at Stoke City, and then it just, for whatever reason, it just didn't happen with him. I think there was a disconnect there. And when we signed him, we kind of thinking, well, he didn't do great at Stoke. But Sam came in and he said, look, that's behind me. He showed great character to me, Sam Surridge. He put Stoke behind him. He got his head down in the Championship. I thought he was terrific for us in helping us to get promotion. That day, the goal he scored at Blackpool, beautiful. The hat-trick against Swansea. These are things I'll remember for the rest of my life. So, like Des says, he goes with all our very best wishes if he is going. And I think, like the crux of the matter is we signed a guy for a certain amount. He's going to the next stage of his career with good wishes, and we're getting in more money than we shelled out for him. And that is the way, if we are to be sustainable as a football club, and we've not always been this, have that sustainability, that's what we've got to do. And Sam might be the first of those kind of deals, So I'm sad to see him. To be honest with you, his role or lack thereof last season was about the only thing I was really puzzled about. It was the only question I would have asked of our manager. Why isn't Sam getting more game time? I think he's a good finisher. The management would have had their reasons, but I just think he's a smashing lad. You say, I'm very privileged to have met members of his family. They're great people. Sam's a good lad, and I hope it all really works out for him. And it would not surprise me. I don't watch a lot of MLS because I'm watching so much other stuff, last night, the proms and all that kind of stuff. And I think he'll do really, really well. And I tell you, if he likes country music, he's going to the right place, to Nashville, isn't he? You know what I mean? So, and he can go watch the Nashville Predators ice hockey. They're a really good side. So, for a young lad like that, he's going to see more of the world. I just hope he does really, really well. He's a smashing lad, and he's been a privilege. He's been a credit to Forest and to his family. So, no problem.
There's this one game. Dave should have an audio book on Forest.
What about him? he's no big.
People in the comments. Well, before we have the last topic, who talks the most, Dave or Des? There's no disrespect them. Who talks the most? There's 78 people who. I'm gonna put
we can't be separated, though. We're like Alcaraz and Djokovic, me and him.
I can put a poll.
We're like Pogacar and Vingegaard in the Tour de France, you know what I mean?
Right, what time it's going? I mean, I've not spoken to Dave or Des about this, about Brennan Johnson, because this link is not going to go at all. Let me start with you, Des, and then I'll go to Dave. Des, what the Brennan Johnson situation? What people in the comments will get involved as well, because like I said, he's been linked. Brentford, the link is not going away. Village, the link is not going away. But Des, what do you think? Before I get to Dave.
Brennan Johnson, of course, as I've said over the season when I've been on this show and in other places, Brennan Johnson's a fantastic player. You know, he's took a lot of stick at times, which is ridiculous. You know, people need to remember 2 years ago, at this point, this guy was not in the Forest team at all. He wasn't in the Forest team. And then he started in a pathetic Forest team, you know, and he was one guy who managed to drag a little bit of hope and give us something to smile in those first few games of the season. That goal at Derby, of course, really sort of ignited his career. You know, and what he did when Steve Cooper come in, a manager who put some faith in him, wanted to attack a little bit more, wanted to play an expansive game. So we can't forget how far he's come to start with. So anybody who questioned him at points last season is absolutely ridiculous. Even when he left the team, you know, towards the final few games, it wasn't a permanent thing. It wasn't like, I never felt it was dropped as such. You know, it was a decision that Steve had to make, and it was about formations and how we play away. You look at that Southampton game, yes, Tyro stuck the ball in the net, but who's the one setting the goals up? Who's the one sort of putting them on the back foot, you know, squaring the ball first time and things like that? The Everton game at home and the Leicester game at home. Do you know, and when you look at strikers in the Premier League these days, I said it when I was on with Kevin Campbell a few weeks ago, do you know, 10 is the new 20, isn't it, in terms of Premier League goals? Let's not get carried away. If a guy gets 10 Premier League goals, he's done some serious sort of business. He's probably won you 4 or 5 games. And when you look around the team, again, in the Premier League, you look at Son this season, for example, didn't have the best season, Son at Spurs. Probably didn't win Tottenham 5 games. I'd imagine Brennan won his 5 games with his goals and with what he did. You know, so these players have become absolutely priceless. I'm not saying Son isn't a better player or he's not going to do it next season. He's a fantastic player. But you've got to look at the contribution they made. We've mentioned it lots of times. Aston Villa paid 45 million for Ollie Watkins. You know, Brennan's a lot more proven already in his first season than Watkins was. Yes, Watkins has gone on to do the business and score goals and be what he is, you know. And you look at someone like Tony, who was a lot cheaper. Imagine the fee for Ivan Toney now. You're probably looking, with all his problems, you're looking 70, 80 million plus. You know, so why Forest fans had the audacity to ever go at Brennan Johnson at times last season was absolutely beyond me. Yes, there was a clamour for Tyro to play in a central role, and I personally would have liked to see Jono play wide right a lot more, you know, and perhaps sort of adopt the formation we had from the season before. Of course, that meant problems at the back, so I completely understand it. But you have to understand all the aspects of what's happening in the game to get to that point. You know, yes, I could easily sit here and say Jono should have played more wide right, but then I realised the problem at the back, you know, and how it affected the rest of the team. So he had to adapt massively. He's a brilliant footballer. You know, he's got pace to burn, which is a commodity of its own. You know, he's got clubs that are chasing him. Brentford, for example, they're not going away, are they? They've chased him for 2 years almost now. You know, Thomas Frank, for as much as Forest fans probably don't like him, he's a good manager. If we're being pragmatic and honest about other clubs, you know, he's a really, really top manager. And he's chasing Brennan. The guy I mentioned, Ivan Toney, scores goals for fun. He is a real good player. He's missing of course, they ramp up the interest in Brennan Johnson. So I think we can't forget what a job he's done. Yes, Morgan Gibbs-White and his relationship is a fantastic asset. Again, I feel if we'd have got more from the midfield, those two guys would have had even bigger seasons for us. Brennan would have scored even more goals if the ball was being moved from the back to the front a lot quicker. So I'd be really, really devastated if he left, but then again, I can see every player's got his price. Forest, let's face it, Forest always have been, in the 30 years I've been watching it, in the 65 years Dave's been watching it, and in the,
you cheeky sod!
in the 3 years he's been watching it, though, every player.
What?
Des Oldham, you cheeky but no, sorry, Des, it's 96 years, mate.
Every player's got his price, because Forest are not Manchester United or Arsenal or Chelsea. Declan Rice has just gone to Arsenal for 105 million quid. This is the market we live in, and when you're a team who finishes between 6th and 20th in the Premier League, expect to get your best players taken away from you. So if teams come around, we all sort of worry a little bit about, we don't want him to go to Brentford or Villa because he's better than that. There was lots of people saying he wasn't good enough for Forest 3 months ago. Now all of a sudden he's better than Brentford and Villa. What you've got to realise is these clubs want him. If Forest are prepared to accept a bid for him, of whatever value they put on him, that kind of says a lot as well, doesn't it? Because I think if right now, if people coming from Morgan Gibbs-White, they'd be told where to go.
Yeah,
because he seemed to be one of the hottest prospects around. So I think we just have to remember how far this kid's come, how good he is, how good he could be, And if the right offer comes in, we kind of, for all his ability, everything I've said in a positive manner, Brennan's still a little bit raw, So he might not quite push to that next level. I really hope he does. Again, we like him, we like the people around him and things like that. I really hope he pushes on, but there's no guarantee. So if a club puts a price on him, I was convinced yesterday that he were leaving. Obviously, with some of the social media and seeing him on a plane to Spain today, my mind's kind of gone, well, he's probably staying. But there might be other reasons around that. Villa come sniffing, they might say, we'll give you 100 grand a week, Brennan. He might, I don't know numbers, he might be on 50. So then Brennan might think, well, Forest could give me a little bit more. You never know in football. It's not our business to know what goes on in the background. It's our business to support the team and support the guys on the pitch. If Brennan leaves, we'll wish him well. We'll watch his career sort of intently, and remember what he did for us. And in many ways, if he didn't step up to that level, we'd think we got the best of this guy. He's a legend at Forest.
Yeah, exactly.
And then maybe one day come back and show a bit for us. So that's kind of my thoughts around it. I'd hate to see him leave right now. I want to see this guy, and Morgan Gibbs-White, shoot us up the Premier League, shoot us up into that sort of mid-table European places, be around. But football's not like that anymore, is it? Players don't play at clubs for 10, 12, 15. Look at Mason Mount, biggest Chelsea fan in the world. He's gone to Manchester United.
Exactly.
It just doesn't work like that, does it? And I think we have to realise that. And when managers change every 2 minutes, it doesn't help players either. Because I'm sure if Steve had the option, he'd keep Brennan where he is. He'd work with him. He'd develop him. He'd make him an even better player. He'd buy better players to work with him. But it's not necessarily his choice either, is it? There's money talks. And when you're in Forest's position now, having spent all that money last season, we're talking about no signings and why it's taking so long, it's perhaps a case of wheeling and dealing, isn't it? It's perhaps a case of losing a big player, getting 50, 60, 10 million here for Dennis, 5 million for Surridge. It's perhaps now a case of staying within FFP, wheeling and dealing. You sell Johnson, that might be the catalyst to go and sign Henderson and that Sanghera from PSV. And it's happening around all football clubs as well, isn't it? Man United, the goalkeeper, it's going on and on and on. And then it has that knock-on effect. Nobody's gone out there and really signed all the players. So I'm still a bit lost whether I think Brennan will stay or go. But I'd love to see him stay. If he did go, you know, what can we do other than do our job in supporting the team and the players and wish him well and thank him for the 2 years he's given us. You know, let's not underestimate the last 2 seasons. And again, whether we're talking about Steve Cooper, Sam Surridge, Brennan Johnson, you know, we've not had it this good. It's not felt this good to be a Forest fan for a very long time. So let's just thank them for what they've done. You know, let's not get on the case. Let's not call them Judas. Let's not say you were rubbish anyway. All these things that tend to be churned out, you know, and just enjoy the fact that we've had them, we've enjoyed them, and whether they stay or go, you know, we're still here to support the team.
100%. Before I get Dave, there's quite a lot of talk about Brennan. From Michael Lane, how you doing, Michael? Johnny will most likely stay at Forest next season. I think he'll get improved contract. Steve Cooper is more relaxed about Brennan. In yesterday's interview, he was more relaxed in the interview. If you've not seen Steve Cooper's interview, go and check on the Forest website. Paul says, I think he'll stay until the end of the season at least. I think a single reason he would go to Brentford, maybe, but I think he'll stay. We don't know. That's the thing. When was this one? This is from Rachel. Hello there, please can I have a free Nottingham Forest shirt because it's my birthday last week. I want one new, please. So Rachel, please, from Rachel. Rachel, ask Des. Forget from Do Daily. He'll sort you out. Make sure you subscribe to Do Daily, Rachel. He'll help you out. As well. Paul says, Des just talk more.
I just seen that door. I had to put in a good shift on Brennan, didn't I, to catch him again.
I think he did as well. As well, as well. People.
The bar.
As well. I got a clue. But people in the comments, if he's lost his head. That's one before we get David. I would be heartbroken if he left. I can't see you going for at least one more season. I think you'd be more than concerned about if he stays, especially for his Forest fans. You rest. Good comment there, Colin. Right. It's your turn, Dave. Last but not least, before we go. Okay.
Yes. No, listen. Everything he said, like it kind of concurs or you know synchronizes well, I think. But I've got to say about this kid, I'm like you know knocking on a bit, as everybody alludes to, and I'm happy for that to be the case. But I love this kid. I think he's so special. I've not felt, you know, when you grow up and you go through different generations of football, there are players that you absolutely fall in love with, and you just feel like that you're kind of so emotionally invested in. And when they go out on the field, especially somebody from my own club, and I feel that's my person on the field. That's this kid. I adore him. I think his story is incredible. You know, Lincoln City on loan, sort of given the impression by previous management that he wasn't up to the task. You know, he's come through the ranks. He's paid his dues. I think he's incredible. And I would be beyond heartbroken if he left, right? I just literally, he's my favourite. If anybody ever asks me, who's your favourite footballer? It just comes straight out, Brennan Johnson. Right, absolutely Brennan Johnson. There's something about this kid, you know what I mean? He's like, look at Stan, look, Stan's eating everything.
Stan the dog.
Yeah.
People in the comments, show some love to that Stan.
Yeah, there he is. Look. Stan does. You see, Stan's like me. Stan's rung me and he sent me emails, and he doesn't want Brennan Johnson to go either because, like me, he's in love with Brennan Johnson, right? And I know people say, "Oh, you shouldn't fall in love with your homegrown talent and all that." Stan's agreeing with me. Can you hear him? Stan doesn't want Brennan to go. So if Brennan's watching, Dave and Stan want you to stay, kiddo. Right now, the thing is, right? I mean, his story is incredible. Because not only has he come through the ranks and he paid his dues with that season at Lincoln where he was like, you know, and then you think, can he do it to the championship? He won Championship Young Player of the Year and he proved it. Last season, I think he and Morgan had more goal involvement. So I think there was only De Bruyne and Haaland and maybe Harry and Sonny who had more goal involvements than Morgan and Brennan did. And so Brennan has proved himself. He is a proper Premier League footballer. I just think where Brennan was slightly not helped, and I don't think it was his fault, was like the way that we played in the Championship readily became apparent that it wasn't fit for purpose because we were so open at the start of the season. What had been okay against your Swanseas and your Huddersfields and your Coventries and all that kind of stuff, Birmingham's in the Championship, wasn't okay if you're going to like Manchester City or you're playing Tottenham at home or whatever. So Forest had to kind of adapt. And so it would have been lovely to see Bren play as a right winger and use that pace. And that is the key word for me with this guy. Because if you've got pace in football, you're in a game. You've got a weapon. You've got a difference maker. You've got a game changer. And this kid is that. He's so quick. He's so quick that Brentford and Villa...
Were they the second fastest in the Premier League last year?
Yeah, there's only... I think Kyle Walker was the only one guy faster. Yeah. And Kyle Walker is noted for his pace. So that's the kind of territory that Brennan, with his pace, is in, right? Now, the way I look at it is Brennan is so fast that Villa and Brentford can chase all they like, but they're not going to catch him. He's too quick for them. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think whenever I've run a football team, and I've run football teams, if you've got a guy who's lightning, you've got somebody that the opposition is going to think, oh my goodness me. So what Morgan does, Morgan operates in a certain way, Taiwo operates in a certain way, but Brennan, as Des says, that game against Southampton, Brennan was magnificent. He made the first goal out of nothing for Taiwo. Taiwo hooked it in. The Danilo goal that Brennan squared for Morgan to lay the ball off and Danilo finished. I mean, that's one of the goals of the season. Look what Brennan did to Manchester City's great Ruben Diaz. He made him fall over backwards. I would like...
And no one talks about that goal. No one talks about that goal, is it?
The best goal scored in the world this year because it was done against the best team in the world. They were made to look stupid. I could go on about that goal forever. I won't. So Brennan Johnson, personally, anybody who's that quick, I don't want him to go. But there's a difference between what Dave Asprey wants and what might be right for the club. Now, as Des has alluded to, if one of these other clubs said, right, we'll give you 50, 60, 70, whatever, right, then Nottingham Forest as a business has to kind of take a look at that. They have to kind of say, well, we're getting a lot of money in on one hand, or Dave Asprey's art might be broken on the other, and they're going to put Dave Asprey's art and throw it in the bin, right? So they're going to look at it because, when we come back to it, no man is bigger than the club. Do you know what I mean? Nobody. Not even Brian Clough was bigger than Nottingham Forest because the great man isn't here anymore, but Nottingham Forest continues to go on. Nottingham Forest is an eternal thing, right? So, but I desperately don't want him to go. He's the one guy, every time he gets the ball, my bum leaves my seat. And I think he's fabulous. He's not the finished article yet. He's not the finished article in the Premier League. He's not the finished article at international level. But boys, I talked earlier about these guys who've kind of been left behind by Forest's evolution. Brennan hasn't. Brennan's gone with it. Brennan's evolution is astonishing. And I think it was noticeable to me last year. I was very privileged to be asked on shows to talk with supporters of other teams. And several times guys were asked to name what they thought was which Forest player they would have if they could have it. And pretty much to a man, certainly in the early part of the season, before Morgan sort of started to get his limelight, and deservedly so, because Morgan was magnificent. They all wanted Brennan Johnson because they all want Brennan Johnson's pace. They want Brennan Johnson's eye for a goal, and they want they want that ability he's got to break a game open. But I desperately don't want him to go. But I know there's no sentimentality in football. That business trumps that business. So money will always rule heart, in football. So he may be gone in a few weeks. He may be gone in a few months. He may be gone in a few years. If somebody said to me, you could have one wish, say I rubbed a lamp and the genie gave me 3 wishes. My first wish was, please don't ever let Brennan Johnson leave Forest. And you know what? Even when he's had some stick, but I think people don't understand him, And with regard to these rumours and stuff about him leaving, there's a cautionary tale for Brennan Johnson and Brentford. Keane Lewis Potter. What's he done since he went there? And he was a big thing in the Championship.
Yeah, Brennan's better than him.
Brennan is better. Brennan's got more, and Brennan's Forest, and he's my boy, and I love him to pieces. So he's better than Keane Lewis Potter anyway. But the thing is, he's got decisions to make. Forest have got decisions to make. His family are going to have decisions to make. These are all like really complex processes that have to take place. As regards rumours, I'm not going to believe any of them. I get fed up with all this.
In the comments, Dave didn't believe. He didn't listen to rumours.
No, it's social media stuff and rumours, and all these people who think they know. When Forest say it, and then an official announcement, then I'll believe it. Until such time, it doesn't matter whether it's Fabrizio Romano or John Percy or whoever. I don't believe it until Nottingham Forest say so. It's like I didn't believe that. There were people leaking the kit this week on Wednesday. Nah, that wasn't Forest kit. It was only Forest kit from Friday night at the Castle and yesterday. So with Brennan, there's going to be lots of talk, but to me, it's just a lot of hot air. All I know is that he's on the plane to Spain. He picked up a bit of a knock when he was playing for Wales. He was there yesterday. He was part of the family, which he is. He's gone over to Spain, and if he goes, what will be will be. But I tell you what, when you've got a guy of that already, that achievement, and then that increased level of potential and that pace and that ability to put the ball in the net, you have to think very, very seriously and very, very hard about whether you're going to let that asset go, because he is a real asset to us. So, but the thing is, you just don't know. Cloughie said, always expect the unexpected in football. So we might be sitting here, and a lot of people on the comments, bless them, they think he's not going, or they don't want him to go. I don't want him to go, and I agree with them. Des probably thinks something, but football is sort of in a month's time. It might. Oh, blimey!
People in the comments, what do you think? People in the comments, what do you think? Johnson, yes or no? Do you want him gone? Yes or no? I don't.
No.
Dave don't. Des don't. People in the comments, what do you think? Yes or no? Before we do go. Right. Bloody hell, I've gone over the hour, and I think Dave won there, Des. I think he won there. Sorry, Des.
He always wins.
He won.
No, I think it's basically going to a 5th set tie break. You know what I mean? Asperas versus Dezovic.
I don't know if you saw this comment. Where's that comment? This is from Paul. The Dave and Des show. Love you guys. Enjoy bed. You've been out to it. Yeah. You know what? When these two here, I just sit back, just like, yes, they're here. They can talk.
Do you know what, Dore? Me and Des actually had a little bit of a word in the stand, in the Jimmy Cyril stand yesterday, and me and Des sort of said, let's get our heads together and say, let's have talk the bugger tomorrow night so we can't get a word in. Right?
And they have people, and they have.
Even Stan said more than you tonight, Dore. Me and my mate Stan, we're the Brennan Johnson Appreciation Society, mate. You know what I mean? Although I don't chew the chair like he does.
Oh, God. Right, it's been a great show. We've gone over the hour show, but it's been a fantastic show, people. Before you do go, please do hit the like button if you can. Subscribe to my channel. Make sure everyone's going to subscribe to the Do Daily. His title is in the link, so people are going to subscribe. There's any new content coming on your channel?
Working on stuff. Of course, subscribe to the Do Daily. I've had a bit of a break the first time in 3 years.
You always have a break. You're slacking like always, aren't you?
I've had a couple of weeks off from it because I do it every day. I just talk about being positive and things like that. You know what? Not a lot of Forest fans on Twitter know much about, so it might be worth checking that out. So it's just about being positive in everyday life. It's not about football, but I'm working on 1 or 2 football lines as well. You know, just taking some of my stuff forward. As you know, Dore, I did a few match reports and things for Pitch Footy last year. Nothing to do with me and my content. That's not around anymore. But I decided to carry it on. So check out the Twitter. You know, because got some good views yesterday on the preview and the post match, so felt a bit raw doing it after the off season. So thanks to everybody watching. But yeah, check that out. Give us a follow and give me a bit of stick if you want as well, because I just ignore
people. Give us a stick. Go on the channel. Just give us some stick. Like just put from Dore's channel. That's all you do. But please go and subscribe to Des. Like I say, if you feel down, Des is the man.
If you're giving me stick, you're not giving it Dore or anyone else.
Please just give Des as much stick as well. We'll make my day. We'll make my day. I know people know Dave is always on all YouTube channels, so you might see Dave on.
Don't subscribe to me because you won't find anything. No, Dave. I'm kind of like anti. I'm like no chance. But
anti.
If anybody does it. Football's 12th man podcast. I tend to end up on there representing Forest.
He's everywhere. Every time I turn on the channel, he's there. He's everywhere.
Yeah,
But
honestly, I'm
YouTube
terrible.
channels up and down the country, aren't you, Dave?
I'm up and down was it like a blue arse fly, like they used to say, Des? You know what I mean? So no, it's just really nice just to go on and natter about football with some really good people. You know what I mean? Which is what we've done tonight. It's just such a pleasure. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right, people, I get going. Thank you for everyone that's come to watch my channel. Like I said, make sure everyone goes subscribe to the channel. Do daily. There's not much football going on. Who we got next, lads? I don't know who we got next. We're going to Spain.
Valencia, I think, on Wednesday. Is it behind closed doors? Is it all? And then Levante on Saturday.
Yeah, so I might do. Should I do a watch along for that game? What time's it on? Does anyone know what time the game's on?
I don't know. Leeds the following Thursday. Now that'll be interesting.
I'm definitely going to Leeds. I'm going to Frankfurt, people, but I'm not going to PSV because it is pointless me going because I can't watch the game. So there's no point. So what's the point? But I'm going to Frankfurt. If anyone's going to Frankfurt, and yeah, there he is again. He's there.
Look at him. Butter wouldn't melt in his little mouth, would it, Des?
Hey, the kitchen lino today.
Yeah, Kay said. Good old Stan.
Nick said it's Tuesday, 6 o'clock.
Right.
The game is.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Blimey.
Well, yeah.
I bet. Streaming on the Forest website. I think it's £4.99 for the game, and then you can get a package to watch all the friendlies. You know.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, all right then. I'm at work. Don't finish till 8, so I can still watch it. And all that. Right, people. Thank you again. Thank you, Des. Thank you, Dave. I'll be back. There's quite a lot of content. I've done some recording, so watch out for the content from DoreOnTour show. But yeah, Dave and Des, thank you very much. Make sure you go and hit the subscribe button, like as well, and I'll see you soon on my channel. Peace and love.
You ready?